Hi, my name is James Landreth. I work for Mason County Climate Justice. I'm the Regenerative Agriculture Program Manager. So, my job is to facilitate creating food forests in the community. And I also do a little bit of work to try and protect the food forests that we have that are in danger of being logged. So, you're joining us today at Shelton United Methodist Church. This is an orchard that we planted in partnership with an organization called the Orchard Alliance. And I'm really excited to show this to you. It was planted in 2019, all with donated trees from Raintree and compost that was derived from the community, as well as wood chips that were all donated. So, in spite of the pandemic, it's been really flourishing. And this year, we grew quite a bit of fruit here and it went out to the community. So, let's go check it out. So there's a lot of reasons we plant food forests. One of our big goals is to plant food forests all across Mason County, and these serve many purposes in each community. One of the purposes, of course, is combating food insecurity. In the United States, we have a lot of people, working class people, who can't afford fresh food and have forgotten how to grow food. So each of these projects is a way to teach people and also to grow food for the community and send extra to the food banks. We do hope to do some of these projects in each of our communities and maybe someday even beyond. In the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of food instability because of broken supply chains, climate change, COVID, and our hope is that these projects will make it so that even should the worst happen, our communities will have enough to eat. So next to me, we have a sea berry. Sea berries are usually marketed as a shrub, but as you can see, this has become, at the very least, a very large shrub. Sea berries are one of my favorite fruits to eat. They have a very citrusy flavor, and they also have a lot of medicinal qualities. You can actually very easily derive an oil from them by running them through a blender, and that oil is really good for burns and for promoting healing. But as I said, the juice is also very good to eat. It is grown in a lot of communist and former communist countries because it's very hardy and drought tolerant, and it's a good orange juice substitute. And during the Cold War, a lot of those places couldn't import orange juice. They were promoting, autarky, and so this was the substitute that you could find commercially in places like Berlin. So another major component of any good food forest is incorporating native plants, both for food and for wildlife. So next to me we have a mock orange. We planted this along the pathway to the church. This is a really lovely pollinator plant, and it's also very fragrant and beautiful throughout the year, but especially when it's in bloom. So we have not only mock orange, but some other natives that we have are serviceberry and elderberry. We also have plans to add hawthorn, chokecherry, hazelnut, and then eventually some understory plants. The understory plants like huckleberry and salal need more shade than we have, so we usually add those last. So I'm standing next to a quince tree. Quince are one of my favorite trees. They're very long lived. They are extremely drought tolerant and they're productive. We usually expect 100 pounds of production per year from them every single year. They're also very good for pollinators, and they can be grown from cuttings, so people in the community can respectfully take cuttings and grow their own for their house or other projects. Quince have a long history in Afro-Eurasia. It used to be that across many gardens in that continent, people would have one of these on the north side of their garden. They're a very small tree even when they're mature, and like I said, they're productive and they can be counted on every year. And in addition to that, they're a good storage fruit, so they will last generally through the winter in good storage conditions. So next to me we have a fig tree. And a fig tree is really great because they're very drought tolerant once they're established, and they're very productive year after year. In this region, most of the figs that we grow don't need pollination. They don't need a fig wasp. They are parthenocarpic, which means that they will fruit year after year, no matter the conditions. And so that's a really great reason to grow them. In addition to figs, there are a lot of things that we've started to grow in this region because of climate change. So there are hardy citruses like yuzu that we are growing outside in the ground and without protection. We are also planting olives mixed in with our food forests, and we've had really good success with that for olive oil and for pickling, brining olives. And we also have some that you might not have heard of, like loquat and pineapple guava. All of these are really great because they're very drought tolerant once they're established, and they also get people really interested in what we're doing. I'd just like to say, as a note about climate change, that I grew up in this area, and when I was a kid, there were some types of apples that we couldn't grow because it wasn't hot enough. Like Arkansas Black wouldn't ripen, among others. But these days, just 20 years later, we are growing things like olives, citrus, and loquat. So our food forests also contain fruit trees that are more commonly known in modern America. So we have a pear tree here and also a plum tree behind me. And one thing to keep in mind when you're installing a food forest for your community or at your house is that they don't have to be planted all at once. Oftentimes we only have so many plants available and so much water and so much labor. And also, as I said before, a lot of the understory plants need more shade than you have in the beginning. So to that end, we've added an aronia berry here, and we've also added some native mint at its base. And we have plans and plants in the works to plant salmonberry and salal and huckleberry, but only as the shade allows. Otherwise, if you plant it too early, it'll just go nowhere. All right, so back here we have a really exciting space. This is a square in the back of the church, and this is similar to what up front looked like, only the front of the church when we started was totally bare soil, absolutely denuded, and this we've been feeding with horse compost, and we have plans in the next year to expand the food forest back to here with more of a focus on native trees. So a lot of people know very famous native plants in the Northwest, so things like salmonberry and huckleberry and salal, but there are actually a lot more plants that are indigenous to here, including things like chokecherry, which is Prunus virginiana, and also plants like native hazelnut and chinkapin, and maybe even a few white oaks. And so we hope to plant this in the next couple of years. We're preparing the soil so that it's even easier to start. And this will also be a great space for pollinators. Everything we plant will be food as well. And as with the front, this will be a great space for absorbing all the excess storm water. So a lot of the rainwater in this area is excessive in the winter, and it can be very expensive and damaging if it's not controlled properly. So this is a great way to sink that and store it for the summer in the ground. So thank you again for joining us out on this rainy day at one of our flagship projects. I truly hope that each and every one of you will consider going out and planting a tree, or better yet, a food forest, whether that's at your home or in your local community for your community. I really do think that these projects are going to be a big part of our resiliency in the future for feeding the birds, feeding the bees, feeding people, and mitigating water issues. If you want to see more of these projects, donate. The link will be in the description so that we can continue this kind of work. My name is James Landreth with Mason County Climate Justice, and I'll see you at our next orchard.